What's going on? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to go over the SMTP exploitation. So here in this room, the network services room, part 2, we're going to go over SMTP exploitation. We have 3 parts: task 5, 6, 7, understanding, enumerating, and exploiting. And the rest is for MySQL. Okay, so what do we need to do now? We have a couple of questions for each task. For the first task, 5, we're going to go over the questions and answer them. So the first question, what does SMTP stand for? Simple Merge Transfer Protocol. All of you know the answer. Now the next one, what does SMTP handle? The sending of. So basically all of you know the SMTP handles the sending of emails, right? It doesn't receive, it sends emails. So basically here the answer is emails, basically. It doesn't send birds. What's the first step in the SMTP process? So basically, when first you send an email, your email gets to the SMTP server. The SMTP server of your end, of your domain, will initiate a handshake, SMTP handshake, with the SMTP server of the recipient. If all is good, it's gonna hand over the connection. So the answer here is SMTP handshake. What is the default SMTP port? 25. Where does the SMTP server send the email if the recipient server is not available? So basically here, as you can see, you here sends an email, right? You send an email, the email gets to the SMTP server. The SMTP server first connects to the SMTP server of the recipient here. If all is good, it sends. If this SMTP server of the recipient is not working, doesn't respond for whatever the reason, SMTP server of your end or your SMTP server will hold it in the SMTP queue till the SMTP server of the recipient becomes available. So the answer here is SMTP queue. Okay. On what server does the email ultimately end up? So basically here, if all is good, the email gets out of the SMTP server and then goes to the POP IMAP server of the recipient. The POP IMAP server will then transfer the email or gets the email to the recipient's inbox. So it will end up in the POP IMAP server. I can't copy paste it. All right. So here, POP IMAP. Can a Linux machine run an SMTP server? Obviously, yes. Can a Windows machine run SMTP server? Obviously, yes. All right, so we're done with the understanding parts. Now, for the enumeration and exploitation, we're going to get to our Kali machine and understand this practically, then we answer the questions. So basically, the first thing we do is to scan the target, SV-A. Of course, you know the switches, the meaning of them. Now we have 22 open, SSH 25 for SMTP, which is the actual thing we are targeting. Okay, dokie. So here we have the SMTP commands, and all of you know, guys, that any SMTP server can be communicated with Telnet or actually Telnet, right? We can use Telnet to communicate with the server, and the commands we can use actually are verify. We can verify if a user does exist. So what we can do here, basically, we can open a new command tab, and here Telnet. This is out of the scope of the tutorial, but we're gonna do that 25. So here, for example, I type verify, and here we type the username that we wanna see if it actually exists or not. So, for example, the username that does exist in this scenario, the one that's gonna work in this scenario, as we're gonna see later down the road, it is administrator. So here I verify if this user does exist or not. Enter. As you can see, by receiving this response, we can deduce that it is actually there. For example, verify, we're going to put my name. As you can see, rejected. So this means that the user doesn't exist. Now what we can see here, if we want to reveal the full address of this, we can type expn administrator. Command not recognized. Okay, so it doesn't work. What else we can do? We can, for example, type receipt2 or type list. No? Okay. Receipt2 need mail command. All right. So basically, this is for sending an emails, and so basically that's how you interact with the SMTP server manually. We can use verify. Mostly, we can use verify, and then we can create emails and send emails with the receipt2 and mail. But we're not going to do that for this scenario. We're going to do that every time. If you have an engagement, I don't know, writing SMTP, we're not going to do that for every target. It doesn't scale up. So if we get back, our end goal every time with any SMTP server is to find a valid username or valid usernames. So with valid usernames, we can brute force and find the correct pair of passwords. So here we know that this SMTP server. We can now start enumerating the server. Now, one way to do that, we can exit, quit. All right, so we're going to use two methods. The first one with Metasploit, the second one without Metasploit. Now, TryHackMe or the walkthrough in TryHackMe uses Metasploit. We're going to use Metasploit and other tool if you are preparing for OSCP. So here we can type MSF cancel. Okay, now on the other end, we can type SMTP. There's a tool called SMTP Enum and type here users. I can't remember the name. It's not like that. SMTP user enum. So this is a manual tool. You can use that to enumerate the usernames. So here's an example command. So this command we can verify. We can give it a list of usernames, and it does tell us if what are the valid usernames using the verify command. All right. So let's do that. So sudo smtp user enum -m verify -u, and here we're going to use a word list. The word list will be from sec list master. So I'm going to go to user share word list sec list, and then type usernames, and then we have top usernames, I guess, short list, right? -t the IB of the targets. So this is a manual method to figure out the valid usernames. Okay, let's leave this running. Okay, it's finished. So we have administrator, we have vagrants, we have roots. 3 users do exist on the system. We can make sure that this is correct by yes. So here we can clear. We can type telnet 25 verify root does exist, verify vagrants does exist. So the results from the output here is actually correct. Now, after we have obtained the usernames, we can start brute forcing. Now, let's see how we can do this with Metasploit. Say you don't want to prepare for OSCP, and you are just a savvy technique user who wants to just save time on himself. So what we can do here, we can use a tool from Metasploit called search SMTP enum. So we have it. Let's take it. Show options. Show options. Now, what do we need to set here? Our hosts. So our hosts list. Right, a user file. So the user file is the word list that contains the users. So it is right here. We can take that and say set user file. Right, okay. Now we type run. All right, but we haven't received the required results. So we have put the IP, the port. Let's actually we need to increase this number. So set let's 232 or more 40. All right. Now user share word list sec list. This is the user file. Show options. User share word list sec list. This is the username file. And other than that, all right, let's run. Still no results. Scanner. Are we using the right tool? Our port is 25 threads. Well, okay, user share, word list, sec list. Oh, so here we have something wrong. The T is missing here. You see, sometimes a slight thing would miss your scan results. So what we do here, we type user set. It's very sneaky, actually. I'm gonna copy that. And here type T. I guess it's gonna work. Oh, one more time, we have problem. Set user file. I'm gonna do that manually. User share sec lists. User share word list sec lists. Let's see here, user names. Short list.txt. Run. Actually, I think it is working since it's taking a while to find out the valid usernames. Now, while this is running, let's go here and see what are the questions required. So the first one, let's run a port scan. What's the port? 25. What port should we start? Let's start up. You see, this is the method used here in Metasploit. What command do we use? MSF cancel to start Metasploit. Let's search for the module SMTP version. Okay, so here we have to use this module SMTP version to find out the version of the SMTP server. So basically, we can type awk, right? Auxiliary scanner, and then it is SMTP version. Let's copy that as we're going to use this module to find out the version of the server. So here we have one invalid username found, administrator. I don't know why the other users have not been shown. As you can see here, we have the SMTP enum user, we have root and vagrant more. Here we have only administrator. Anyway, that's why sometimes you need to compare results between different tools. Okay, now let's use the SMTP version to find out the version of the running server. So use and type that. Okay, show options. So here we have set our hosts. And set threads 40 run. Here we can find out more information about the running server. For example, here we can find operating system that is operating the SMTP server. We can here find the mail agent, as you can see, postfix. And of course, there are other values like follow smtp.home. This is the system mail name, actually, the name of the mail system. So, okay, let's get back to the questions now. So here, select the model and list the options. How do we do this? Show, this is like Metasploit test. Have a look through the options. Does everything seem correct? What is the option we need to set? Our hosts, of course, our hosts. Set that to the correct value for your target machine. Then run the exploit. What is the system mail name? So this is system mail name. Oh, correct. What mail transfer agent is running the SMTP server? This will require some external research. The transfer agent, as you can see, it's postfix. It is written beside the name. So postfix without any research, it is actually obvious. Even though if you write here, you can see the hint. If I want to send a letter to my friend, I have to postfix it. Good, we now have got a good amount of info on the target system. To move on to the next stage, let's search for the module, which we have used actually. Let's type the correct path of it. It is here. Don't forget the auxiliary here. So type this /. Okay, what option do we need to set to the word list path? User file. This is what the parameter that we needed to set, if you remember, to feed the word list to the module. Once we have this option, what is the other essential parameter we need to set? Our hosts? Okay. Okay, now that's finished. What is the user name returned? If you get back, it is administrator. Where was this? Where was this? Where was this? Okay. So that's done with the SMTP enumeration. So basically, when we say SMTP enumeration, we want to find out the version of the SMTP server running. You want to find out what is the valid usernames. We can do that manually, or we can do that with Metasploit. If you get back to the Nmap scan, you see you can just give up on the tool SMTP version. Why? Since the SMTP scan results would give you the version of the services and, of course, the name of the mail server, as we have seen in the Nmap scan, but I have all the time I cleared the results, so no way to get back to that unless we scan the target again. Right, now let's move on to the exploitation. How do you exploit an SMTP server? So basically, from my point of view, we can search for type exploit. Of course, this is with Metasploit, and name SMTP. So basically, we can see a couple of exploits for SMTP servers, right? But this is not in the scope of this tutorial, okay? Of course, this is still a valid way to exploit SMTP servers, but in this scenario, we're not going to use this method. We're not going to find an exploit online, neither with Metasploit. We're going to just rely on the enumeration results, which gave us the username, okay? Now, by using the username, we will get access to the SSH server and get the flag. So that's how the perspective of this tutorial on the exploitation. You get the username, you get valid usernames by the enumeration, and then you use these results to exploit do the exploitation other way. Okay. So what do we do next? Right. So here, if you remember, we have SSH server running, and now we have a valid username. So we will get access to the SSH server with sudo hydra dash l administrator. This is what the username we have found. Dash p user share word list t and verbosity. We want to see every attempt, successful or failed. And here the IP address. This is IP. Of course, or we can just type that SSH. Right. Enter. Okay, so we have one valid credentials. So administrator and Alejandro. So what we can do here, we can type sudo. Oh, no sudo. I hate sudo, man. SSH. Actually, I'm a bit confused here. Okay, SSH, and we have the username administrator at the target. Yes. And we copy the password. We don't want to give any chances to typos. Okay, so right now we have got access to the SSH server. How? Relying on our enumeration of the SMTP server, right? Okay. Yes. So we have one flag file, cat SMTP. Oh, okay. Cat SMTP. And this is the flag. Where was this? Okay, it's here. What's the password of the user? What's the password? Okay. And this is done. So that's how we demonstrated the exploitation. Actually, I don't like to name it exploitation. Why? Because actually, to be honest, we have only enumerated the SMTP server. We found a valid username, and we use that username to get access to the SSH server by brute forcing. So actually, we haven't exploited the software of the underlying SMTP server. So we can call this, instead of exploiting SMTP, we can say relying on SMTP to exploit SSH or to get access to the machine. It's indirect exploitation, since we haven't relied on the version, or we haven't determined if the version of the underlying software is actually vulnerable and worth researching for the exploitation. Okay, now you may ask me, then how do we directly exploit the SMTP server? So if you get back to the nmap scan sv-a, and we take the IP, let's close that. Keep it. I'm gonna take screenshots for this, for the, all right. Okay. Save that here. Okay. Okay, let's get back. Close that. Right. So nmap scan shows that we have postfix SMTP, the mail transfer agent, right? Now, technically what we can do here, actually we want to see the SMTP, the version of the SMTP server running. All we know, actually it is postfix SMTPD, and the name is polosmtp.home. Sorry. So search exploit postfix SMTPD. How about this? Okay. So you can see a couple of vulnerabilities for postfix and with the versions, but in a real scenario, you don't want to try every single exploit, because you may break the client server. So here we're going to find the actual version. Now, suppose you don't want to use Metasploit to find the version of this server, this one. So what we can do here, we can try to re-interact with the server and the IP. What is the IP? 1.5. So ESMTP postfix and polo smtp.home 220. So still we need to find the version. This hasn't been helpful. Okay, quit. And okay. So in a manual exploitation, guys, we're gonna find the version manually without the use of Metasploit. So what we actually can do here, we can use the scripting engine of Nmap, Nmap. So to find out if the version of the actual server is vulnerable or not. So we can do here, we can search for. I think I'm a bit confused. So cd user share Nmap. So cd scripts. So ls-la grep smtp. So we have a couple of SMTP scripts. We're going to use these actually, the first or the last three, to find if it is vulnerable or not. So sudo nmap -p, we specify the port, which is 25, and then we specify --script vuln, and here we specify the IP address. So nmap now will use the available scripts to find if the server is actually vulnerable or not. So then we can look for the exploitation manually. So with the aid of Nmap scripting engine, we have determined that the current SMTP server is not vulnerable, as you can see, to some exploits. So here it is not vulnerable, as you can see, to this vulnerability 2010-4344. But that doesn't mean it is actually not vulnerable to other vulnerabilities, to other exploits. All right. Normally, if we do telnet or netcut, let's try netcut. My problem here is I want to find the exact version of this server. So I'm getting only 220. The banner is very brief. And without finding the the version, we can't determine. So in this case, if you have used the Nmap script and you haven't found any vulnerability for the SMTP server, I would advise just use exploit and type the software. So it is postfix. And here you can see what is the exploit that could or that has a name indicative of your objective. In our case, we could try this one, but actually we don't know the version, so we will try this on our own risk. Okay, so that was for this SMTP thing, and see you in the next video.